Buenos días, buenas tardes, y buenas noches. Bonjour, bonsoir. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you may be. Jay Slater Case. And for this video attempting to look perfectly camouflaged with the grey shirt and the grey background of the day. Yeah, Jay Slater Case, two things I want to touch on. The second one is we finally get a response from El Slugtardo regarding the total failure of the Jay's Law petition. And as you might expect, for whatever reason, the Fishguard Fairy still thinks that the Jay's Law petition is alive. It is not. But I will go over his response. Now, before that, this is really part two of reasons why our group, the Foul Play group, exists. Because I did, in part one, attempt to explain perfectly rationally and logically why there are certain factors in this case that make us think foul play must be involved somewhere. And if you remember, what I tried to say was it is alarming. It strains credulity is the phrase, I think, in law. It strains credulity to think that all of the resources that were used and all of those experienced searchers that were out there failed not only to find J, but to find any trace or hint of J. And yet, we have a real estate guy falling on his ass as he tries to go down into the V notch, so to speak, and a guy in his basement in West Wales that meet with unparalleled success. That they can manage to find the body and yet not find the body. And I said, you know, to us, that really does seem so unlikely that it makes us think something else is in play here. That was part one. And I said there'll be a part two where, well, I hinted at we would go into some of the things that El Slugtardo, the slugster himself, has said that strains credulity to another extreme. But actually, before I do that, I think it was DJ Ravers earlier today said, well, when's part two? Because I think Ravers really wants to get into an absolute pounding of El Slugtardo, which will come, will come in good measure. But I don't actually want to do that right now. I want to lay out, when we look at Jay's phone activity, or rather phone inactivity, why it hints to us that something is really amiss, and it ain't something you can ignore. So let's do that. So here we go. Part two of reasons why we are skeptical. Part two of reasons why it makes perfect sense to doubt the narrative is connected with Jay's phone activity. Reason number one. Jay let his phone charge run down to zero. Now, we all know this, and I think accident group just look aside as always and say, well, yeah, that happens. I don't think it does. I don't think it does. My observation, for what it's worth, especially of the youth of today, is that they have 101 means of keeping that charge up. It is, well, I was going to say it's life or death. In this case, it was life or death. But for teenagers in particular, keeping that phone charged, active, alive, working is everything, is absolutely everything. Whether they have these power pack things, whether they're, charging it left, right, and center, wherever they are, it just seems to be as much a routine for many people these days as is putting your shoes and socks on. I'm not exaggerating. When you see someone in a total panic because their charge is down to zero, I mean, everyone kind of bails them out and, does whatever they can to keep that charge up. So I would say point number one is the very fact that Jay's phone went down to zero is a clue, a big clue to me that Jay isn't with that phone. I mean, statement of the obvious, the phone doesn't drop from 50% to 0% immediately. You can see how that charge is going down. You can plan. no matter what state of mind you are, you're very aware that it was on 50, it's now on 40. You're going to be driving up into the mountains. Oh, well, there's a charger in the car. Oh, well, there's a charger in the house. Oh, well, there's got to be a charger somewhere down in that cafe down at the bottom of the hill. Maybe there's one on the bus. I mean, you're subconsciously going through all of these. Where will I charge the phone as it goes down, heading down towards 20, 15, 10, etc. And besides that, you don't need to take that from me. Debbie Duncan herself said that Jay was not the kind of person to let his charge run down. It was something he would make sure that that phone is charged. Again, first time abroad? No, not first time abroad. First time abroad without family. And you can imagine that Jay would have been, despite all his bravado, he's a 19-year-old boy, but he would have been very conscious that keeping that phone charge up was extremely important. So I've always said the very fact that that phone charge was allowed to run down to zero, and to me it does seem like it was allowed to run down to zero. It seems like the person that had that phone wanted it to go down to zero. It seems like to me. They did nothing, absolutely nothing, to recharge that phone. That hints to me that's not Jay with that phone. Number two, Jay had a habit of keeping in touch, we are told. Debbie was already established. They have this special bond. Jay's in regular contact. It was, I think Debbie said, Jay's habit, even if his phone was not at hand, even if his phone, I guess, wasn't charged, he would get someone else's phone and just send that message to say, I'm okay. Or if you want to call this number, this is my friend's phone number. Now, I don't expect Jay to do that with Rocky and Ayub. It does sound a bit pathetic. I've got to send a message to my mother. Can I borrow your phone? But, I mean, before going up there at Magic Mike's, if for whatever reason Jay's phone isn't on hand, maybe he left it behind in the apartment or something. Yeah, I could imagine him saying to Brad or Lucy, I've just got to send a message to my mum to let her know, we're okay. End of the festival, we're leaving Magic Mike's, everything good. So the charge running down to zero, and Jay, for once it seems, not sending a message at all. I mean, especially the last night of the festival, I would have thought, because he told her just going out to get something to eat. I would have thought early morning, she's getting up to work, right? Yeah, it's a work day. So Debbie has to go to school. What time does school start in the UK? 9? So 7 o'clock, she's probably up. Um, I would imagine Jay, it would have crossed his mind. Yeah, when he's up at the Airbnb, mum's up, just send her a message, everything's okay. But he did not. He did not do that. And so that brings me to point number three. Even though Jay, we're told, had a habit of keeping in touch, at this most vital moment, when he's up in the wilderness area, Jay does not make one single call to Debbie. Not one. Nothing. I mean, he's talking to Brad, he's talking to Lucy, he's talking to Brandon, but he can't spare, even if he were to leave just a voice note, just a, hi, mum, it's me, I'm okay. Festival's over, stayed with some friends, going home by bus. No, not one single call to Debbie. And not only that, let's add reason number 4 here. Not one single call to Warren. In fact, let's add reason 5 here. Not one single call to his brother, Zach. Nothing to Debbie, nothing to Warren, nothing to Zach. Again, I'm going to repeat. This is Jay's, and I would imagine Debbie, Warren, and Zach look at Jay as a kid still. He's still the baby of the family. Yeah, I would imagine that they would have said, don't feel shy anytime, day or night, just to give us a call, even if it is to say, you're okay. We're fine with that. Doesn't matter if you can't get through to your mother, doesn't matter if you can't get through to your dad, try your brother. Just let someone know you're okay. Because in my experience, a lot of parents, I mean, especially with the kid abroad, will keep that phone on. They don't turn it off overnight. It's on. In fact, they're kind of half expecting, whether it be good news or bad news, something to come through. Parents worry. I would imagine Debbie has her phone on all night, just in case Jay has something to tell him. I would imagine Warren, same thing. Zach, same thing. And yet, there isn't. There isn't any text, any message, anything at all coming through to Debbie Warren or Zach. And this, when Mark Williams Thomas tells us Jay is feeling some kind of threat. Josh Forshaw's saying he's taken a picture of knives down his underpants. I mean, okay, might be a laugh. But I'm saying either way, if Jay didn't feel comfortable for whatever reason, or if Jay felt absolutely fine, I would have thought, knowing after 7 o'clock, the family members are probably waking up and the day starts, I would imagine he'd say something. There's also the UK friends. Let's add this to the list of reasons why I don't think Jay's in charge of that phone. He's got his UK friends there. And just a short time before, Jay sent to a WhatsApp group. I don't know who's in the WhatsApp group, but I'm guessing it's the likes of Paul Curry and Saul and Jessica Ingham, the crowd, the Lancashire crowd that came over to look for him. Nothing to them. And just before that, he sent a message to his WhatsApp group saying, just, stole a Rolly or an AP off to sell it for 10 quid. You would have thought that one of those youngsters would have seen that 7 in the morning. Well, I know they're youngsters, but maybe one of them is up at 7 in the morning, sees the message, and would fire back a response, or at least would fire something to Debbie and Warren and Zach saying, just got this from Jay. This doesn't sound like Jay, or this sounds like Jay could be in trouble, or what's going on with this? But we have this scenario where Jay, still with his community order incomplete, this is serious stuff, in a foreign country, saying he's committed theft, joking or not, I would have thought someone in Lancashire, whether it be family or friends, the UK friends, would have seen it and reacted. It's hard for me to believe. It's hard for our group to believe, Accident Group. It's hard for us to believe that that message about the watch theft would have gone out to Lancashire and nothing happens. There is no incoming message, there's no incoming phone call, there's no outgoing message, no outgoing phone call, right up until the phone dies just before 9 o'clock. I find it unbelievable. Literally unbelievable. I can't believe that. Try it. Try it. Next time you are on holiday in Tenerife at 6 in the morning, fire off a message to whatever WhatsApp group you might belong to. See what happens. Just stole a watch off some see you next Tuesday, off to sell it for 10,000. Yeah. Everything's good here. I'm off my undies, or whatever the phrase was. And see if within 2 hours someone tries to contact you. I mean, if you're one of those where no one bothers to send you a message or call you or do anything, then your world is Jay's world. But well, I can only say in my world that there'd be a lot of reaction. I would hope. All right. Number 7, reason number 7. So here we go. Go through them again. Reasons why I don't think Jay is in charge of that phone. He's let the charge go down. He said he was in the habit of keeping in touch. There's not one single call to Debbie. There's not one single call to Warren. There's not one single call to Zach. There's not one single call to or from the UK friends. Number 7 is the obvious one. There's no emergency call made. I find this bizarre, that it's Jay's friend Lucy that calls the emergency services to say Jay's in trouble, whereas Jay, who supposedly is in so much trouble, doesn't bother. He never says he's in any great dire emergency. He never says that to anyone. He never says, Paul, I need help. And I would think, as he's stumbling towards disaster, phone is down to 1%. I would have thought Lucy, chat with Lucy or call emergency services. If you've been bitten by a cactus lying in a ditch, you wouldn't deal with Lucy. You would, you'd call the emergency services. You'd say, here's you can see my location, surely. I'm in desperate help in the mountains, just off a main road. You would do something to get emergency services there if you, on 1%, felt you needed it. That's why I don't think Jay's in charge of that phone. What have I got here for reason number 8? Oh, yeah. There's not a single image of Jay and his phone together from Papagayos onwards. I mentioned this several times, but I think it's true. If Jay is dancing with the Henny bottle on the night in question, if that is Sunday night and he's in Tramps or Sugar Reef, wherever it is, yeah, we can see him with a phone. He's filming himself, jigging around with the Henny bottle. We don't see him and phone. We don't see Jay and his phone from that point on. That's the last one, I think. Papagayos, Brandon, yeah, Lucy, I think, yeah, Brad all the time with the phone, maybe 2 on the go. Jay, he's not filming the NRG festival. He's not filming his mates. He's phoneless, from what I see. Shirtless, phoneless. He's got no phone. We don't see it. We don't see it in his hand. When he gets to Masca, we don't see it. I mean, statement of the obvious. What to us looks like a Photoshop image of Jay in the back of the car. He's not there in the back of the car with his phone up to his ear, or he's not in the back of the car filming Rocky or filming the person filming him. And even in the audio where, got a headshot through the window, all that, to me sounds like kind of fake banter. Even in the audio, there's no reference to phone. You'd have thought this would pop up somewhere. Jay would say, "Oh, I've got to film this. Let me get my phone out." Before Sleeping Beauty wakes up, let me just get this on my phone. We don't hear Jay saying anything about his phone. We don't see him phone in hand. I mean, it just adds up when you add up the totality of evidence. It just adds up to me that he doesn't have a phone with him. I would have thought that some instance between Papagayos and dead at the bottom of a ravine, there would be some evidence, a picture or a reference to Jay and his phone. There is not. There is not. Everyone else, but not Jay. The switch to the vanishing Snapchat intrigues me as well, because we were told, thanks again to Dr. David for his persistence with Lancashire Constabulary, we were told when they finally did come through with some replies that last message, the last message was a vanishing Snapchat, but the vanishing variety. But we were also told that DCI Higson, when she did her forensic examination, she was looking at a whole range of platforms. Some were on WhatsApp, some were Facebook, some were regular calls, texts, and some was done by Snapchat. So if DCI Higson is telling us that some of the evidence she looked at, her forensic examination, was through Snapchat, she must have been able to see something. I think DCI Higson would have said, but I must add that all communications done by Snapchat, I can only see that the app Snapchat was in use. I can't see any message. I would have thought she would have said that. but she didn't. So it implies to me that during that evening, that phone was using Snapchat, but not the vanishing message variety all the time. It hints to me that the last message to be a vanishing message, the settings were changed by Jay or whoever had the phone. I'm saying it's someone else that had the phone. And they had to make sure that last message, for whatever reason, was a vanishing one. Now, I might have read this wrong. It might be that DCI Hickson did notice and did say, I don't think she said it, but maybe she did notice that every time Snapchat was used, it was the vanishing message type. She didn't say that. She implied to me that it was regular Snapchat use, but in the sense that she could trace some of those, she could trace some of those snaps, those Snapchat messages. Anyway, my point is that it seems to me at some point that Jay has switched from regular Snapchat messaging to the vanishing message type. I might have got that wrong. Maybe the nature of Snapchat is that every single message is a vanishing message. Is that how the app works? I would have thought you have the choice, but I don't know. All I'm saying is what makes me skeptical is that it was pointed out by Lancashire Constabulary that that last message was a vanishing snap. To me, that implies that at some point Jay or the user of that phone changed the settings so that it went to vanishing. But I'm not a phone person. I don't know. And of course, the last one, the last reason I don't think Jay's writing anything on that phone is the last message. Listen, I'm not going to make it. We've all talked about this. We've all said that doesn't sound like Jay. I mean, Jay's going to really type listen, comma, as he stumbles towards death. Um, I can't explain that last message. I don't think anyone can explain it. If it was a last ditch attempt from the accident group, Debbie and her goons, to try to convince us this is Jay stuck in the ravine, doomed to death, it's a very poor attempt at convincing anyone that that could be the case. So I will leave it there, and I will have a quick look at Ivor's message today. Actually, if it's right there, I could turn to it immediately. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, it should be here. There it is. So, Lord Lugworm, he says in a rather positive tone that he thinks the government are actually working on the proposals of Jay's Law. They're not. I just saw it BBC News Online, and Keir Starmer had a meeting with some parents, and it's all about um, young kids not being or not having access to social media, I think, until they're 16. That's the idea, anyway. Will the government ban social media, for under 16s? This has nothing to do with grieving families. This is nothing to do at all with online platforms and, misinformation, disinformation. Um, but the accident group are now clutching at straws to the extent that any news item about any kind of restriction that might come into force for any age group regarding social media has to be triumphed, has to be trumpeted as some kind of great success of Jay's Law. It isn't. It's completely irrelevant. And besides, there's no indication the government will do anything anyway. But just to read Lord Lugworm's post, he says government are quite clear they are going to make changes to address more than just one issue. No, as always, Lord Lugworm, it's the other way round. The government have not made clear at all they're going to make any changes to any single issue or to any issue beyond that. So certainly, it's certainly not an indication that the government's looking at more than one issue connected with social media restrictions. Luggy says this is just one issue they are going to act on, no matter what people say or think. No, It is not clear, Lord Lugworm, that the government is going to act on anything at all. At all. You're talking about Keir Starmer here. There's a good chance Keir Starmer won't even be heading the government in the next few months. So when you say that the government is going to act on, it's not going to act on something. It may do, it is a possibility. But if you read how skeptical some of these parents were when they came out of the meeting, it was clear that a lot of them were saying they don't hold much hope out, despite the Prime Minister's words, that anything will happen. So please, Lord Lorwyn, just read the comments of the parents who were actually in that meeting at number 10. They weren't very positive. So if you to say that the government is going to act no matter what people say or think, that is not true. You say, but understanding or seeing the issue exist is the way forward. But understanding or seeing the issue exist, the issues that exist, is the way forward. There's no indication that is the way forward. Again, you say when they act on another issues, what you mean is, again, when they act on other issues, it will address the issue. Okay, this is a bit of a primary school sentence, isn't it? Again, when they act on another issues, it will address the issue. I guess the issue is the grieving family. People can't criticize a grieving family. If that's the issue, you say when they act on other issues. No, it's entirely possible. Again, Lord Lugworm, you're wrong. It's entirely possible the government could act on other social media issues, but nothing to do whatsoever with what is proposed in Jay's law. That is entirely possible. And then you say just a little more time required. Well, depends what you call a little more time. If you're saying, Lord Lugworm, that in 2 centuries Jay's law might be an actual law, fine. Yeah, 2 centuries, 3 centuries, it's possible. But a little more time required? No. Lord Lugworm, Jay's law is dead. The nail in the coffin, as I said last time, the nail in the coffin was that government response, that revised government response that made it abundantly clear that every proviso that is put forward in the Jay's law proposals is already covered by the Online Safety Act and any individual complaint that one might want to make to Ofcom. That's it. What you need to do, Lord Lugworm, if you learn to read first, if you become literate, and then read what is in the Online Safety Act, and then read what the government's revised response is to Debbie and Sarah Smith, you will then understand that Jay's law is dead. Grasping at straws, saying, well, the government had a meeting with parents today about under 16s and social media access and... Libby, Jay's law is dead. Now, once you grasp that, you might be able to move forward, and maybe you could push Debbie into some more activity that is actually worthwhile. Use her fame now for a good cause, like drug awareness and what have you. But what I recommend you do is to tell Debbie to forget Jay's law because, for the last time, it is dead. All right, let's leave it there. More a little later, possibly, on that very strange case, the three sisters in Brighton. But for Jay Slater, for this video, let us wrap it up there. Hasta luego, adios. See you next time.